Well, g'day. Just going out for a stroll on this beautiful Easter Monday. And I thought, no, this is worth recording. I get a laugh out of this. We're heading into bat territory. Literally. Surprisingly, plenty of vehicles out and about today, which you would not expect, being a Easter Monday. Well, everybody's on lockdown, but I guess by now everyone's getting a bit stir crazy. What a beautiful place, eh? I think maybe my camera's not as clear as it could be. That looks a bit better. Okay. What a beautiful place, eh? Except for those noisy bats, they're a little bit stinky too, but it's not too bad. There's a flutterby. Fluttering by. Anyway, it's nice just to get away from all the crapola and crapoli and crapoli and crapole. Yeah, that'll do. All the crap that you tend to get sort of surrounded with when you're staying at home. Trying to socialise on the social medias. That's probably why I'm a loner. People say that as though it's an insult. Not to me, it ain't. I mean, I'm talking to a camera here, of course, but ordinarily I'm quite content to go my own way and talk with nobody. Actually, well, listen to the birds. And the bats. See a few up there, eh? That one's getting a hammering. These ones are just sleeping. Told they make quite good eating too by some of them. Well, we call them Aboriginal, but that's not what they call themselves. Some of my Koori mates, some of the Indigenous. Even though Koori is not actually a very technically correct term for about 95% of them. That's just one tribe. Mostly Bunjalung around here. Stop pinching that baby. You'd think they'd be so bloody noisy in the middle of the day, huh? The funny thing is though, when they take off at night time, by the thousands, they're completely silent. You might hear the occasional little flapping of wings as one of the scouts or something comes around and tries to give a mid-air bonk to some of the younger ladies. They're funny like that, but once they're on their way, perfectly silent. Like thieves in the night coming to steal your fruit from your fruit tree. Yeah, there's heaps of little lizards around here. Every time I hear a little ruffle in the leaves by the side of the road, it's like, you guys gotta watch out for snakes. This is Australia. Stop it. See, the little skinks, they're just little lizards, I don't mind them. However, they are one of the main food sources of most snakes, so, you know, where there's a food source, there's going to be a food eater. Anyway, I should pause it here for a second. Now I'm out of bat territory, the worst thereof. My beer should be sufficiently shaken up by now. Cheers. I said it before, but I'll say it again. Damn, I grow a good beard. I mean, brew a good beer. Yeah, well. Lovely countryside little villa. Oh man. Yeah, there's just a little bit of where I live, where I walk my dog every second or third evening. It used to be I'd do it every evening, but that was back before I was working as long hours as I'm doing. But lately I've been getting some days that are 12 hours long, plus 1.5 to 2 hours of driving either side of it. They're bloody long days. The last thing you feel like doing when you get home, put your feet up and check your messages, respond to all the dickheads on Facebook and YouTube, and say go to a few friends, I suppose. But, you know, I mostly just respond to the dickheads. That's my thing. Don't know why. Just I have far more pleasure in responding to dickheads and being controversial, you know, and giving them a hard time as much as they give me one back than I do in being friendly to people. Like, I just pick one person to be my friend, and whoever she is at the time, she gets 100% of my messenger time. Okay, 99.9%. There's always the odd little message coming up here and there, and I'm always trying to be polite-ish. But apart from that, yeah, if I'm not messengering you, it's because you're not my girlfriend. And yeah, girlfriends come and girlfriends go, but one's stuck around for a long time, and she's pretty much convinced me to take her back. And you know, I've always loved her. She's beautiful, smoking hot body. So it's like, yeah, well, I've been single again for a while now, so okay, you can start sending me nudes again. She's lovely. God bless her. So, hello little Maggie. There's a magpie. What you got? You got something in your beak. I bet you're eating either a worm or a skink. Everything eats skinks except me. Hello. If you say good day to a magpie, or hello, or whatever, in your own way, and you just say it in a nice way, that magpie will remember you individually for the rest of your life. Or its life. I don't know if they live that long. Seems to me they only live for a few years, actually, because if they breed 1 or 2 offspring every year, and you watch their little bubbers growing up, you can tell they're bubbers because they're more grey than black in the feather, and they act like bubbers a lot, you know, squawking at the parents, fucking feed me! Ah! So, if they're replacing 1 or 2 offspring per year, and we're not getting overrun with billions and billions of them, then it tends to suggest to me that they'll live for a few years, maybe. and they got their territorial bits and stuff, and you know, things come and things go, but we're certainly not overrun by magpies. You know, they can balance themselves in tune with nature. We need Georgia Guidestones and the Illuminati to keep us under control. Like they say, rabbits breed a lot. I've obviously never been to India. In fact, now that I think of it, do they even have rabbits in India? I know they have cows. Surely they have rabbits. Oh, that's something to ask Google later on. Another flutterby. Are they beautiful? Could be the same one. Highly doubt it. Okay, so now we come to the bottom of the hill. This is where it bottoms out a bit. So I got that cool sunset one with the dog the other night. Just in the long grass here. Those horses are always on top of that hill. Every single time I see a silhouette of horses on that hill. I think that's pretty cool. I think I'm getting thirsty. It's bloody hot. Who would have thought it'd be so hot? Oh, starting to feel the road on my feet now. Very therapeutic. Oh. Yow. Oh, instantly there. So I guess that's something I could talk about. So I do have a little bit of recording time and I'm just on a stroll with no particular topic in mind whatsoever, except still thinking about the nature of light in general. Like, we think we have a good bead on stuff until someone comes along and points out something. Like, my feet, even though they're warm, but as they were moving, I barely really noticed the heat of the road. It's only when I stopped and stood still for a moment I realised just how bloody hot it is. And they're still burning a bit, so I'm just going to hop onto the grass for a little while. Because it's like only midday-ish. I mean, the sun being behind me is obviously, that's to the west, so according to the sun it's at least 1:30 PM. But with daylight savings buggering everything up and whatnot, it's probably only about 12:30. So even though I can feel the heat on the back of my shirt, because I'm wearing a black shirt, it absorbs the heat far more. It's not what I'd call uncomfortably hot. It's actually pleasantly hot, since last night we had a bit of a cold change and the temperature dropped below 24. That's when I start to get a bit, man, where's my Ugg boots? Where's my flannel? You know, I like 24 degrees, but it dropped down to 22, even just under 22 Celsius, and yeah, man, bloody, nearly had to get tracky dacks as well. So, heat, which is temperature, and light, although they are related, they're not exactly the same thing. Which is quite curious, because I've been declaring a little bit lately in some of the chats. I haven't done a video on it yet, but I've said it, and so I will say it now in a video, is the sun does not... It's hard to word it correctly. The sun itself does not produce heat. We get the 3-foot massage. Ooh, hot rocks. Yeah, the water dragons. On camera, probably not. You can't zoom in on this setting. Selfie setting doesn't zoom. So light and heat, they are a cause and effect situation. The light causes the heat, but it isn't the heat. The heat is an effect, it's a reaction. And like a reflection is a reaction, it's almost the same word, you know, reaction, reflection. It's a reaction to the light. The light itself is a reaction to the sun, but it isn't the sun. I'm not sure if the sun even shows on this. I can get a glare in the face. The big bright shiny thing in the sky that we call the sun is not the sun. I know, everything sounds like a contradiction and doublespeak, and it turns out that the truth is kind of like a doublespeak. Somebody kept trying to say that to me the other day where I was responding to comments and saying stop with the doublespeak, but you have to doublespeak. You have to put the horse before the cart and the cart after the horse, and you can't really have the cart without the horse, but you can't have either without the ground for them to walk upon. And so the nature of this, the ground would be the atmosphere itself. The atmosphere is the medium upon which light has the ability to exist. And everyone readily agrees with that, because we know that nighttime is a real phenomenon. And the reason we don't see sunlight at nighttime is not because it's all in the Earth's shadow, simply because the light from the sun is not hitting our atmosphere. It's got nothing to illuminate, and so it's darkness. And it doesn't light up stars, even though a lot of people like to tell you that they do, that it does, that's the cause of the light from the stars. Yet the brightest stars, the wandering stars, they say are lit by the sun. And then they say the other ones are just other suns so far away. They just look like tiny dots, almost the same as your wandering stars, only the same but different. So those lights that we see, hello, how you doing, beautiful? Why are you looking at me like that? Hey, what's going on? You having a good day in the field? Nothing to be scared of here, girl. I just mosey on. We're round the corner now. Oh, what a beautiful, glorious day. So where was I? The nature of light. So yeah, the light itself can't exist without something to light upon, which in our case is the atmosphere. That's why the sky is blue. Why at sunset it goes oranges and pinks and so forth, is because the atmosphere is composed of a variety of different gases. Mostly what we call we know what mostly is nitrogen and 20% oxygen approximately, and 1% trace gases. Oh, finally the road's cooled down a bit. But we call them the noble gases because they're the ones that actually create the light. A lot of them are used in welding for the particular reason that they create a shield around the arc of the weld. Finally. Turn around and start heading home now. Getting on. So, scientists will tell us that the sun itself is mostly hydrogen and helium. Have a guess what's in the upper parts of our atmosphere? Hydrogen and helium. And And that, like the big arc from an arc welder, is what creates the bright glow that we call the sun. But it's not the sun, it's just the glow. It's the apparition of the sun. And that's the difference. When you think you're seeing a thing, and you can still look at this thing, you can put solar filters. All that does is minimize certain rays or vibrational frequencies of the spectrum of light that we see to make it appear more clear, but it's still allowing some other frequencies to come through. Pause. Noisy bloody car just come past. So, while some spectrums are being blocked, that's allowing others through. And so the learned expert will tell you, well, you can't see the sun if you don't use a solar filter. But, you know, all the spectrums of light are a result of the sun. So just removing some of them, it's still a view of reality, but it's a view of less of reality. And conversely, if you're overexposed it, you're just going to see more of reality. And the whole sky would look like an entire bright white flash. But because we have the ability to use lenses like what we have in our eyes, that have an aperture that open and close and allow a certain amount of light in, our eyes, like our modern cameras, automatically adjust for best exposure. What works best for you. It's just done automatically between our brains and our eyes and the lenses. And the modern camera is basically doing the same thing to suit us, the way we've programmed it and conditioned it or set it, created it to do. The camera wouldn't do it by itself. You know, I started in photography back in my teens, and I got a really good camera when I was in the States as an exchange student. It was my 17th birthday present, and it was great. You know, I had a telephoto zoom lens, and I had a normal lens. You know, not quite wide angle, but the 35mm one, and it had all the auto stuff in it, so it was top of the range. You know, most photographers didn't have that luxury. They had to set all the f-stops and so forth automatically. So I never really learnt to do all the f-stop stuff properly. You know, I was just a bit lazy, and I just wanted to get out and take pictures. I didn't care about all the rest of the jargon. That's why I love taking pictures with today's cameras. So effectively, everything is a pick and choose for what pleases us to see most. And what pleases us to see most is the things that are going to kill us, or the things that are going to feed us, the things we have to avoid. Yeah, that's what our senses are for, a matter of survival. And we survive in this realm as a result of being able to detect light and sound. You know, I even said the other day, and got a bit of ridicule for it, but I still stand by it, that sound is basically just very slow light. Everything is vibration and frequency. That's something Nikola Tesla taught us. He said everything is vibration and frequency. And so the higher the vibration, the more light and therefore heat it produces. The lower the vibration, it's a massive spectrum in between light and solid. Yeah, even a massive one between light and gas. But the way it works is that the gases react to the frequency from whatever the sun actually is. Yeah, I still stand by my original statement that it's an interdimensional portal, in that it is a portal between dimensions that interacts between another realm, draws this energy in through that portal, and then as a reaction to that energy stimulating, I always use the term electro-stimulating, but it might not be electricity, but it's something very much like it, it's energy. The noble gases of our atmosphere give us the apparition of the sun and daylight. Like here I am completely out of direct light, and it's much cooler. Thank you very kindly. It's a bit like being in my room at home, is that it can be very well illuminated during the daytime without a hint of direct light at all. It's going to be either good or bad. Bad. Whoopsie. Oh, wow. This is what I had in storage for a long time and just put it in the fridge a couple of days ago. And wow, it packs a punch. It's like Christmas, but it's in my mouth. Wow, where was I? Light. Yeah. Light. Yeah. Something fantastic. I'll just keep moseying on a bit. Actually, I better check the time here. 26:18. It only goes for 30 minutes before it automatically cuts out, so I better wrap it up. So, light and heat. Heat is basically a result of the friction. So, as the noble gases illuminate and create daylight, where they strike the ground and reflect back off, you don't feel the heat of the ground really until you put your foot directly on it. So even though it's radiating heat the whole time, which is an effect of light, it's not technically hot until you touch it. This is the whole thing. It all comes down to the receiver. If you don't receive a radio signal, does the radio signal exist? If a tree falls in the forest, blah blah. So everything is a three-way relationship between source, the actual sun, the receiver, the atmosphere, which gives us the apparition of the light we see, and then the receiver of the receiver, which is the trees, the plants, the ground, the us, the water. And water, the earth being at least 70% covered in water, is that the oceans actually end up being our greatest heat bank. They basically hold a constant heat far better than land does. Land does hold its thermal heat quite well, but if you dug a hole, you only have to go down a couple of feet and it's quite cool and pleasant. And if for example you were digging your own grave, you laid down in it, you'd go, this isn't so bad. I just hope I don't get buried alive. And so you'd climb back out again real quick and look out for the shovel to the back of the head. But I digress. It's never happened to me. It might happen to one or two people I know. But, where was I? Yeah. So heat and light. So the sun doesn't produce heat, is what I'm getting at. It produces light, which produces heat. So it does produce heat indirectly. However, you can easily prove this for yourself just by climbing a mountain. It gets colder. Look at the ice-capped mountains. Sometimes in sunny summer regions, they're ice-capped because they stay frozen despite being nearer to the sun, because even though heat rises, it also dissipates into the atmosphere. So we basically live in the Goldilocks zone of the surface of the Earth, not of any solar system, even though it's a good word for it too. We live in a Goldilocks zone, the temperate regions. If we go too high, it gets too cold. If we go too low, it stays pretty much the same all year round, actually. Pleasantly cool. And if you go out into direct sunlight, it can get quite hot. That's because the light is reflecting off of things. And in the densest part of the atmosphere, that's where the most friction is created, hence the most heat, which is quickly lost unless you can conserve it into a heat bank, which the oceans are the best of. So, in summary, let there be light. And there is light, because we can see light. Now, the piece of atmosphere that I'm looking through from here in my certain location, compared to somebody over in, say, South Australia, 1,500 miles away, looking up through their part of atmosphere, it's a completely different atmosphere, to a completely different sun, and they'll be seeing it in their maybe 12 o'clock position, whereas I'm seeing it now in a more or less 2 o'clock position. That's time zones for you. Still the same sun, still doing the same thing, and I'm going to say adios because I'm out of time. Adios because I'm out of time. See ya.